Hey guys, this is Dallin. I'm going to show you everything you need to know how to set up your eFoil and everything that comes with the Evo Pro Plus rental. That way you guys will be flying on the lake in no time, having a great time. So this is everything you're gonna get with your rental. You are gonna get the Evo Pro Plus board, you're gonna get the battery, a helmet, life jacket, and the gear bag. So inside the gear bag, you have the front wing also in this other bag. This is your front big wing. In this small slit right here, you have the back rear wing. In this pocket, you have the battery charger, which is here. And then you also have the remote charger, which is this small charger. Then inside this pocket right here, you have the 3 bags with your mast screws and your wing screws. And then you also have your remote. And then last but not least, you have your mast and your motor. Now I'm gonna show you guys how to put it all together. So what you're gonna wanna do is get your board, flip it upside down on a soft surface. If you're on the floor, maybe use a towel or a small blanket, so that way you can put the mast in next. You're gonna grab the mast, and with the propeller facing the rear, you're going to slide it in just like that. And inside your mast screw bags, you have your Allen wrench key and then your 2 mast screws. So put the mast screws in and always start by hand threading it so you don't cross thread it. It should go in smoothly. If it doesn't, then you're cross threading it and retry. Just make sure you get these on the right threads. So you have one on the rear and one on the front. Then you're gonna use your key to tighten it down. And this is very important because these are the 2 screws holding this whole motor and the wings and everything on. So you're gonna wanna make sure this is really tight. You're basically gonna wanna keep tightening it, and this mast part right here is going to be flush with the board. So as you can tell, I still need a little bit more. You might have to flip this using this key so that way you have more leverage. And you're gonna keep going until you hit like a pretty firm stop. That's when you know to stop. But these ones you definitely need to make sure are very tight. So once you feel a pretty firm stop, that's when you're gonna stop, and this mast is gonna be flush with the board right here. Now in the front big wing bag, you have the 3 screws for the front wing. You're gonna place the front wing on just like this, and same as the mast screws, you're gonna hand thread them so they don't get cross threaded. And you're gonna wanna evenly tighten these out, so go until they're all about the same tightness before you really crank them down, just so it evenly distributes the force. Same thing as the mast, you do not want this board flying off, so you're definitely gonna wanna give it a little 1/4 degree turn right here with the leverage side, just to make sure this is super secure. You know, you don't wanna like yank it with all your might, but you definitely want this super secure. Next, in your rear small wing bag, you have the 2 rear wing screws. You're gonna place your rear wing just like this with the tips facing towards the board. There's also this small notch that indicates that goes into here. Same process for the last 2 screws. It's very important to make sure these screws stay tight over multiple rides. So in between rides, definitely make sure these bolts are not loosening up, especially the mast screws, because that holds on both the wings and the motor. So just make sure all the screws are tightened after each ride. Next, you're gonna flip over your eFoil onto that soft surface again, just so it's sitting up just like that. That way we can put the battery in. So this is a pretty tricky part, so make sure you pay attention. You're gonna slide the battery in about halfway, and then you're gonna put the front of the battery all the way in. There's these 2 notches that connect the battery right here, and you have to get those locked in before you can push the top the rest of the way down. You can tell the front's locked in by lifting up. You'll feel it super secure rather than being able to wiggle out. Now that we secured the front of the battery, now we're gonna secure these 2 pieces right here. And how you do this is a key on the remote. So the key's in this little pocket on the remote right here. How you secure these top 2 bolts is you're gonna use this key to push down and turn to the right. Sometimes it can be pretty tricky, but you're gonna feel that lock and it's gonna be completely vertical. So now that it's locked, it's gonna be completely vertical and inside instead of like this one where it's still outside and horizontal. So again, you push down all the way, then you twist to the right. Just make sure it's fully vertical and these are totally locked in. Then you just slide this rubber piece right here and make sure it's flush with the battery and the board. So we have everything put together, and how you turn the board on is you're going to use this magnetic piece at the bottom of your remote and hold it on the power button on the battery for about 5 seconds. There's going to be this loading bar. Wait till that fully comes up, and now the battery is on. And how you turn the remote on is you're going to hold this power button at the top of the remote for, again, about 5 seconds until the white screen pops up. Now the remote and the board should auto connect when they're turned on, but I'm going to show you what to do if that doesn't happen. If you can see the battery percentage of your battery on the remote, it's already connected. If it's not connected, what you're going to want to do is you're going to hold down the power and the minus button and hold it for about 3 seconds until it says scanning Bluetooth. That's where your board's going to pop up, and you're going to press the trigger button to select your board. It's going to say connecting, and then once it says pairing successful, that means you have successfully connected to your board. When you try to connect to your board, it might say pair confirm on the battery part. That's when you can get the bottom part of your remote again and click on the power button and press confirm. Okay. Then your remote and your board will be connected. So on your remote screen, you will have your battery percentage, the angle of your board, your power level of the trigger, and your speed right there. First things first is how to adjust the speed or the power level that your trigger will do once you're holding it all the way down. So you can use the plus to go up and the minus to go down. I recommend for riders under 160 to start from 8 to 10, and for riders over 160 pounds, go to 10 to 12. Now, once you get on the board, the motor will not start until you unlock the motor as a safety feature. So you're going to have to hold down the minus button for 2 seconds until it unlocks, and now you're able to use the motor. If you fall off or don't use the motor for a few seconds, you'll have to unlock it again. To go through the menus on the remote, use the power button at the top to go over to the right. And if you keep going to the right, you're going to get to the settings where you're going to need to be to adjust the auto flight settings and the LED settings. Once you've went over to this menu, you're going to click the trigger one time to select this menu. And then from here on the LED setting to change your LEDs of the board, you can click down the trigger one more time. Then you're going to get to LED display mode. You can click the trigger to select it right here, and you can change if it's on, blink slow, blink normal, blink fast, breathe. There's a bunch of different settings you can do for the LED. And then once you choose it, you just click the trigger to select it. Next, if you want to change the LED color, you can click the plus button to go down, then trigger to select. And here is where you can use the plus and minus to select a color you like. So we'll go with amber, and then you click on trigger to select it. Again, the LED setting is totally optional, but here, if we go to the right with the plus button, here are the flight settings, which is your auto flight. Click the trigger to select this, and this is where you can turn it on and off with the trigger button. Once you turn it on, you can use the plus button to go down, trigger to select it, and now you can change with the flight assist between low, high, and medium. You can choose what height the auto assist keeps you and helps you at. Once you choose what level you want it on, you press the trigger, and now you can go back into the regular menu, and now it will be on. And you shouldn't need to, but if you need to navigate the menu on the battery, you use these two buttons to navigate with the bottom of your remote. What the flight assist does is when you're flying above the water, if you set it to low, medium, or high, that's the level it's going to assist you to keep that level. So if you put it at low, it's going to help you stay close to the water, giving short bursts of throttle and short bursts of decreases in the power. So it's going to adjust your power just a little bit just to help you stay low, medium, or high above the water. When you're ready to take the battery out to charge it or you're done, make sure the remote is fully turned off as well with the battery. They are turned off the same way you turned them on. So hold down on the battery power button, just like that, and then also with the remote, hold down on the power button. To undo the battery, there's this little button right here, and you'll have to lift that up to undo the bottom after you've undone the top. To charge your e-foil, you're going to make sure your charger is plugged into this cord, which is plugged into the outlet, and then the cord coming from here, this is going to charge your e-foil. Make sure there's no dust or water in here. You're going to put it into the battery and then press down. Once you have it into the battery, you're going to click this button right here one time, and that's going to start charging the battery. Once the battery starts charging, it will blink green. The reason why it's not blinking right now is because it's already fully charged. Make sure the battery and the charger are not in the sun or somewhere hot, and make sure it's in a well-ventilated area, and make sure these fans on these sides have room to breathe. Make sure they're not being covered up by some clothing or a blanket or something. Also, if you're not charging your battery, it's also still very important to not leave it in the sun. It should stay in a cool place like inside your houseboat. How you charge the remote is you're going to plug the remote charger into your outlet, and then you're going to use this magnetic piece right here to magnet to the bottom of the remote right here. This can easily fall off, so make sure it's somewhere where it's not going to fall off, and it's going to show a blue and purple light, and it will start charging it. The remote you'll only have to charge every 4 to 5 rides. It lasts a super long time. When you're riding the Evo, make sure your helmet is on and your life jacket is fully on, so if anything were to happen, you need this life jacket on. It is very important. Also, make sure the remote strap is wrapped around your wrist tight, so if you fall and you let go, this will stay nice and tight on your wrist. Putting the e-foil in from the beach or a ramp, you're going to want to put the e-foil upside down in the water just like this, so it's floating above the water, and then you're going to push it out and swim it out until it's about 5 feet deep. Then you can flip it over, as this sits about 3.5 feet in the water. With a houseboat, you can just put it in on the back of the boat if it's already deep enough, or the same thing applies, just swim it out until it's deep enough to flip it over. You definitely don't want to store the e-foil inside of the water overnight or for long periods of time. So when you're done riding it, you'll have to pull it out anyways to get the battery out, put it up on your deck or your houseboat back, and you definitely don't want to leave the battery in the sun. When you're riding the e-foil around, it's very, very important to stay away from shallow areas, as these fins do go very deep in the water. So make sure you don't go too close to shores, and you make sure it's not shallow in the areas you're riding. Definitely also let someone know before you go out, just in case anything happens. There's also a whistle on your remote in case you need to call someone. Also, if you see some sort of buoy or a bottle in the lake, it might mean there's a rock sticking up, because some people leave that there to warn others to not go near that rock that's really shallow. Also, one last thing, in your gear bag, there is a spare parts bag. If you lose or something happens to any of the pieces, there is that spare parts in that bag. That's everything you need to know to ride the e-foils on the lake and have a great time. If you guys have any questions about anything, just feel free to reach out to me by text or call. Have a great time, guys.